Okay, this is part one of a two-part day for the Ryen Russillo podcast. So basically what we're going to do and why we change things up. Daniel Jeremiah is going to come on right now. We're going to talk about the bowl games, what he's seen, and then relate that to some of the draft stuff. And he has some awesome stuff on like quarterbacks in general. If you're a Drake Maye fan, you're probably really going to like it. And we'll do a very straightforward life advice. Later on tonight will be part two. It'll be Friday feedback. But I'm also going to kind of recap Notre Dame, Georgia into a state of the conference stuff that I was talking about earlier with Daniel Jeremiah. So we basically gave you some bonus stuff in two pods, and that's what we're going to do. So enjoy part one. Different schedule this week, but a great time to have Daniel Jeremiah on. We're going to talk about the bowl games, some of the draft stuff as well, and some thoughts on the NFL. Daniel Jeremiah, of course, with NFL Network as an analyst to be part of the draft coverage and a host of Move the Sticks podcast with Bucky Brooks and Rhett Lewis, available wherever you get your podcasts. Happy New Year, man. What's up?
Good to see you, buddy. To see you, have all the success over the years, but I mean, that's kind of a given. You're talented, but the fact that you're getting so often spoofed now, I think has taken you to I think that's a different tier, when there's people that are spoofing you on social media. I think that's just a level of fame we can all hope to get to.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that's the way you got to look at it. A few more have made it my way the past week. So I just always want it to be good. It's like if you're gonna do it, because I think there's a few like mail it in approaches I've seen a few times where I'm like, I don't know if your writing's B+ level.
The guy who did you that did I think it's the same guy that did Schrager and Simmons, right?
I don't know.
I think so. I saw one with Schrager and I thought, I don't know if anybody can do Peter Schrager, but I saw this thing. I was like, not bad.
We'll see. We get some Daniel Jeremiah in there. Look, watching Ohio State, Oregon yesterday. Part of me wonders if the Michigan loss is going to be the greatest thing that's happened to Ohio State football in years, because they look like a beast now, a different team. At halftime, it's 34-0. It's total dominance, and kind of, at least for me, I'm like, who's picking against Ohio State again the rest of the way? Because this looks like it looks like the national championship winner. Granted, there's still some work to do with the expanded playoff here. But what do you think was different in the second matchup for you?
I mean, it just looked completely different. Start with Will Howard. That was my kind of skepticism was, okay, was that a one-off? The last time we saw Will Howard against Tennessee, was that like the zenith? Is that as good as it gets? And then he's going to kind of come back. But then he put together another solid game. I thought Chip too, like, the Michigan thing is going to be, that I can't wrap my brain around. And I'd be curious if, like, you gave a truth serum to Chip and just be like, why were you guys so committed to the run against Michigan? They got two great players on defense and you just ran into the teeth of them that entire game when you've got a cyborg on the outside that nobody can touch. And then it was like Tennessee, we're just gonna throw it around. We're gonna get those guys involved early, run away. This game came out even more aggressive. We're gonna throw it, get them involved early, ran away. And so I think that was really kind of the mystery of the Michigan game, which I don't know if we've ever got an answer to that question.
I'll never understand that Michigan game.
It's weird watch, right? Just like, right. What are they doing?
Yeah, because if there was something about Ohio State, it was the shuffling offensive line. It was a 2-year stretch here of Ohio State where you go, they're not really a line it up and run it down your throat against the other teams that are at their level. I mean, maybe they can do it some of the other teams in the conference, but like your strengths are 3 NFL receivers. And even if you don't like Will Howard as much, the first time I felt really good about him this year was in the Oregon game. I know he had the mistake at the end on the last possession, but that's really like a timing downs type of thing. So I didn't leave that game going, oh, really good game, but he screwed it all up at the end. So for them to come out and do that and show that version of him, there's no way I'm picking Texas against him.
Well, the other thing I think when you've played a team is that you kind of identify where you can go at them, and that's just not. I'm not talking about the secondary. I'm talking about the offensive line. And God bless the right tackle from Oregon, man, but he just had a bullseye on his chest the whole game. And they realized they could bull him. They realized they could power him. And it's just they were rolling guys through. It wasn't just one guy. It wasn't just Sawyer. They're running a bunch of guys through there, and they just rushed right through his chest, and he had no breaks. I mean, that was tough. I thought Gabriel looked. I mean, that was a game too where I thought, man, he looked. I've seen him in person, and he is small, but he looked really small. Everything was just kind of collapsing, and even on some of the throws he was making, it was like kind of like he was throwing out of a well, just like trying to get over the wall, just get the ball over the wall that was in front of him. The degree of difficulty on him hitting like a 10-yard crosser was off the charts.
Yeah, I think the broadcasts are always trying to be nice, right? Because they talked about that storyline. Fowler and Herbstreit were talking about how he put in his papers. And for those that just need a reminder, if you're draft eligible, but you're deciding whether or not you want to come back, certainly with a number of guys coming back now, you get an evaluation from the NFL and they'll kind of like recommend this is your draft range. And for him, it was undrafted free agent. So he comes back, you look at the resume, the touchdowns, the wins, the game start, and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's like a nice version of everybody in the football world that wants to say stuff where it's like, that's a lot of experience. It's a lot of production. You could do worse than that. It's like, yeah, but I mean, there's dudes, this kind of reminds me of like the Kellen Moore thing when he was
That was
college.
my comp. That was look at my tweet from last night.
Oh, is it really? I didn't
swear to
even,
Swear to you. If you pull up my tweet from last night, I said, I listed all of his skills. And I said, he reminds me of Kellen Moore, like identical. He's 5'10", 4. So he's 5'10" and a half, 201 pounds.
But it has to be beyond just the size, though.
Well, if you have that, if you're short and you're like that's really short. So Russell Wilson had a huge arm, is someone who was in that, and he was 20 pounds heavier, who was built like a wrestler, and is more urgent, more sudden, especially coming out. Russ could really move. So you start there. Kyler Murray is, as we all know, is a freak athlete with a freak arm. Like the other traits have to be off the charts if you're not going to check the size box. And then I had somebody, I think maybe it was Ross Tucker, but reached out to me and said, well, what's the difference between him and Tua? And I'm like, well, yeah, they have similar strengths, but with Tua, those strengths are at an elite level, in terms of processing, release, ball handling, RPO stuff, just how quick he is with all of his movements. And then Tua's bigger and stronger. So yeah, like he's that type of quarterback, but Tua's is way above the line in all of those same strength areas, whereas I think Gabriel's kind of more on the line.
Would Jeremiah Smith be the number one pick this year?
He'd be the best player, yeah. I mean, so then it just comes down to need who's picking first. But he would, if you were going to put a grade on players that I've seen throughout this year, all the draft eligible guys I've done, he's better than all of them. So.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a huge surprise there. Okay, so this is because this is kind of how I'm going to do it, kind of jump around here a little bit. Quinn Ewers, we know the resume coming out, and it is always kind of weird to be reminded. It's like he's the highest graded quarterback prospect ever in the recruiting process. Ohio State ends up at Texas. He's good. He's good. We know that he hasn't been. I mean, we keep hearing about this oblique thing and then the ankle stuff and everything. Texas falling apart in that game, which makes no sense, except that it's the most Texas thing of the 24 season, because this is who they've had multiple games all year long where you're like, they're so much better than the other team. And then you look up and you're like, how is this a game? And in this case, it's Scadaboo with the fourth down. It's the fake punt. It's the safety. You just start adding up all these little things that are happening. Scadaboo has the catch. They get both 2-point conversions. You've got Burt Auburn missing kicks. But I would say, like, this is not the game to get on Ewers' case, because I thought the drive to get into the first game-winning kick attempt that was missed was incredible. There were 3 throws in that drive where I'm like, okay, this is really good stuff. He gets him in even closer range. They missed the next one. So I know people can talk about the fourth down touchdown in overtime and then the game winner. I thought there were throws, specifically the second to last game-winning kick attempt, where I know you guys don't have him as like this lock top 10 guy, but even with the limitations statistically from where he's been kind of in the second half of the season, this game to me is not even close to being on his shoulders that it ended up in double overtime.
So I'm not ready to quit on him, and I'll give you the three reasons why. I think there's three components to it. Number one, I liked him over the summer when I studied him off last year. Like I was excited about him. I thought I thought he had a real good shot at being a first round pick. I thought there was twitch with him. I thought the ball came out well. He's everything about him's got some life to it. Now it's just okay. Can we clean up some of the decision making and maybe just kind of dial some things in a little bit? I thought maybe with age and experience that would come. So that's the first thing is what you had coming into this year. The oblique thing's real because I from what I was told, that thing was like torn, and he's just been playing through that. And as someone who's thrown, you think about having to throw with that. That's got to be miserable in terms of how you're feeling with that. So I'll give him a little bit of a pass for some of the performance that hasn't measured up based off of the injury. And then number three, the way he kind of finished up and the way he finished up in this game is a great example. Now let's see where he goes as we go through the rest of this thing, and they got a monster coming up. But I would even add a fourth in that it's an underwhelming quarterback class. So if he decides he doesn't want to go in the portal, doesn't want to take the reported, what are they saying, like $5 or $6 million that's probably sitting out there for him. I think he's going to have a chance to fight his way up through the spring just because of who he's competing against. Because the guy is talented, he's got ability in there, and I think there is the toughness component. I don't know if you can question that physically based off what he's worked through, and then I don't know how you could question his mental toughness when you've got literally the most popular backup quarterback maybe in the history of college football, right behind you.
Yeah, deep throws, I think, are always kind of the issue with him. And then he did have the pick that was part of the comeback, too. But it wasn't like it was some deep in your own territory, first, second down pick where you're like, it's a decision thing where you're like, what are you doing on that? By the way, I loved, I think it was Katie George gave us the sideline report of the 4th and 1 throw where she had Sark essentially going to the play call. The guys up in the booth was like, hey, what are we doing? That was unbelievable access because I was thinking like 4th and 1 against Arizona State and you're throwing it to the sideline. And again, it was like a covered throw.
Yeah.
So Ewers had to get the ball up. I think Golden had that catch, but it was awesome access to be at home because there's just been play calling. And I don't really love to be that play call. These guys are, I think it's a very simple thing to do when people just think every time a team loses that their play calling is just atrocious. Yeah. But I'd say even like with Penn State in the Boise game, like there was a 3rd and 1 where they ran kind of misdirection to a tight end throw, and you're going,
what are we doing?
It's Boise. Like, what are you guys doing? 4th 1 against Arizona State. Like, I guess you're trying to do something the defense isn't predicting. And I'd say even with Penn State, like Colton Ecke, that's kind of what you're getting with him. You're going to get some adventurous stuff, and you can't like it as opposed to being vanilla as Penn State has been in the past, and then be upset when he does something a little bit different. But I think the play callers just feeling themselves a little bit over the last week.
Well, I think the opposite side of that is true though too, because I was watching from the Boise side of things, going, gosh, like that's your Boise. Like you got to get creative and spice this thing up a little bit here. Like I kept waiting for kind of old school vintage Boise to kind of throw some tricks out of the bag there to try and take down a team that's more talented than you across the board, and they kind of played it more safe and right down the middle, which kind of surprised me a little bit.
Do you think? And I was thinking about that, like Scattaboo gets them back into the game. Is it impossible to be an underdog running back based offense and knock off one of the big boys? I feel like I have these memories from my past of like a running back could carry a team, and look, it's a couple games, and Arizona State got back into this thing. So what am I talking about? So maybe it was a bit more prominent of a thought when I was watching Boise, and I think moving forward from now on, like if it's a team that's a dog and running back is their primary weapon, it's just like, I don't know how you're ever going to have a chance unless a bunch of stupid stuff happens in a football game.
Yeah, the hard thing is you're trying to convince a guy who grew up in San Diego and watched Marshall Faulk just tear up everybody that they played against at San Diego State. So I still hold out a little bit of hope for a team that has, that's a Hall of Fame level, back though.
Yeah, but that's kind of the point, is that I think we grew up that it's not just romanticizing something that didn't I think it did happen. Mm-hmm. And now I don't know that I'll ever be like, I'm going to pick them. I'm going to pick them as an underdog built around a running back kind of offense. All right. So does that mean, where are you on your Penn State belief system?
just riding the Drew Aller Express like the rest of the country, man. Just seeing if he can string together some consistent performances. If he does, the rest of it's really, really good with all the other pieces that they have. So um, I know with him too, he had to be loving it. Just like, God, I finally get to get out of this crappy weather. Like, put me in a perfect environment, and I can throw this thing around a little bit. But everything else they've got's really good. Abdul Carter's injury will be interesting. I don't even know did they say exactly what it was with him, why he didn't come back in.
I thought it was, and I could be wrong here now.
It was a shoulder?
2 days, shoulder, because
Yeah.
the stuff that they showed him doing, or whether it was trying to figure out what was wrong, I felt like they kept putting his arm above his head.
Yeah, because he's as talented as anybody in this draft class. So, I mean, that's a very big piece for them. But I mean, now they've got solid backs. They're good up front on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and they have a quarterback. And and we've talked about this, I think, before, NFL related, is when you look at the playoffs with quarterbacks, like consistency, it's almost like I don't really care about the floor so much when we get in the playoffs. I care about what your ceiling is. And can you Joe Flacco this thing for a month and just, hit that ceiling 3-4 times? That's all I need. I'm not relying on you to roll out there 17 weeks in a row and be good and consistent. And I think Drew Aller kind of fits that mold of, like, he's fully capable of going on a 4-game run, because he's got a ton of ability.
Do you like him better than yours?
I think they're total opposites. They're totally different styles. I think what kind of offense you're going to be in is going to be a factor. And I think who you got working with those guys is going to be a factor. But Aller gets to a run team with ability to work off play action and just freaking fire seeds on comebacks and curls and, work outside the numbers and vertical. Like, I think he'll be really good. I think if you just put him in the shotgun and we're going to throw it 45 times a game, I think Ewers has more of a chance to develop into being, one of those types of guys.
I had mentioned, Monday's pod. I was just happy about Brock Bowers because I thought for a stretch there, the first couple of years at Georgia, he looked like the single best player in all of college football. He missed some time his junior year. And it was just such a weird class in 24 because of all the quarterbacks and everything. He ends up, we could look back on that and be like, how did he go that late? It's like, well, go back through the draft and with quarterback need, I mean, that's going to bump you down 6 spots or whatever. Yeah. How do you compare Tyler Warren to how you felt about Brock?
Again, like I would have a higher grade on Brock, but totally different guys. Tyler Warren's enormous. He's so big, and the Gronk thing's gonna be the comp because it's just there's so many similarities there. I think Gronk had a little bit more twitch to him. I think both those guys. Like I just was watching Loveland the other day and studying him at Michigan, and it's like, okay, it's literally what do you want? Like Gronk, if you want to run like option routes and whip routes, like that's not Gronk. Why are you drafting Gronk to do that? But if you want to just have a rolling billboard going down the seam that has a ridiculous catch radius that nobody can tackle once he does catch the ball, or you want to keep him on the move, crossers, overs, all those things, it's perfect. Whereas Loveland has got more kind of like he's from the Kelsey branch of the tight end tree. Where, hey, we can get in and out, whip routes. We're going to have option routes to work off of linebackers. He's going to create all this separation. Tyler Warren doesn't create a ton of separation, but it doesn't really matter. He just walls guys off and boxes them out and catches everything. So to me, Bowers, what made him so unique is he can actually play above the rim and do those things for a smaller tight end. He can go up and get it. But the whip route stuff, the change of direction stuff, like you're seeing a bunch of things with them where they're running. I guess you'd almost call it like a mesh return, where you kind of run a lot of mesh and they'll run mesh. He'll be coming across and then he'll wind back, and his ability to just turn and just a sudden and immediate get out of there and explode, like that was what Bowers did. That was so special. I saw that Georgia team he was on over his career play live like 2 or 3 times. And every time I left the stadium, I was like, as much talent as on this field, like he's the best football player on the field.
Yeah, and it's played out that way his rookie year, especially when you think about who Vegas has been this season.
How about McConkey and him, by the way? Is that going to go down as one of the more underrated combos in college football? Like, I don't know that people realize, like, McConkey's been as good as any rookie receiver in the NFL. Brock Bowers has put together the best rookie tight end season in history.
Yeah, and it also makes you realize, like, as you're getting ready for Georgia Notre Dame, another reminder of why Georgia's had some issues. Do you have a lean on that one tonight?
Um, I think that Notre Dame is like if you just kind of go resume and eye test, like, oh, they've played better, they're the better football team. But these playoff games are quarterbacks and D-line driven, and I just can't stop thinking about this Georgia D-line just being so fresh, and Kirby having them just go out there, having them just dialed up and ready to go. And I think that's their defensive line could single-handedly win them this ball game. So I actually taking Georgia to win. But I say that knowing, look, based off what we've seen, the eye test and who's the quote unquote better team, it would be Notre Dame. But I just think that defensive line could take it over.
So this is a good transition into this because, as somebody who obviously, like I've argued for the SEC for years, I think it is the better conference. And then, it just became really, really political, and it's going to get even worse with the 12 teams. I did not, even though had thrown at me a lot over the past week, I never argued Bama to be in after the Oklahoma loss, because I don't know that there's anybody that's been more critical of Milroe, other than I'm talking like a guy who's doing what I'm doing. Hell, I'm doing an NBA pod once a week too. So, I'm just not a fan. And the only way you lose to Michigan is in the way that Alabama lost to them. But when you look at the head-to-head stuff here with Ohio State, Tennessee, the South Carolina game was a lot more surprising to me than having Milroe just have some dud, and then Michigan ends up getting into it. And then you get USC, A&M. So the head-to-head stuff here with the Big Ten and the SEC, it's been a nice bowl season here for the Big Ten. And who knows? If Ohio State gets Texas, you could have a Penn State, Georgia thing in there. The Big Ten could put together an incredible resume and maybe even another national championship here. I think when it comes to the conference stuff, though, like it's slow moving mass where it has to consistently go in a direction for me to all of a sudden finally be ready to say, yeah, there's actually another conference that's better than the SEC, because I think that's something that doesn't get updated weekly.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that has to happen. And eventually you'd think it would maybe happen just because of the cycle of sports. So look, there's momentum here for the Big Ten and for, what we've seen from the SEC here. I guess the problem I always have with coming to that conclusion is I've never met any coach that's coached in the SEC and then in another conference say anything other than, yeah, it's just different. It's harder and it's different and the players are better. And somebody can't go from the SEC and then go coach in the Big 12 or the Big 10 and then say, oh, actually, the SEC still is better. Like you're not going to get that quote from anyone once they move to work in another part of the country. And because of the access over all the years of ESPN and being friends with guys, it's just, I'm waiting for the one guy who I trust, who I have a great relationship with, tell me, actually, there isn't that big of a gap, because I've never heard it.
I just think that it's pretty simple. Two things. Number one is it pertains to like who gets into the tournament and all that kind of stuff. I am they have the most NFL talent, so they get to get into the tournament, because that just is, to me, that has nothing to do with who the best team is, because I'm a Padre fan. So we'd have a lot of banners flying around Petco Park of just being the most talented team, made you the best team. So that getting into the tournament's one thing. The other thing is,
by the way, just to interject here, make sure you bring that up to McShay, because even as I would sit here arguing for the SEC all season long, he proposed that an NFL evaluator should be on the committee to help talk about how talented the team is. Even I had to push back a bit. I knew as he said it, I could just feel the rage from every other sector of the country outside of the Southeast.
Well, there used to be, I remember in the, this is going back into the, I guess it'd be like the early 2000s, early 2010s. I remember being in draft meetings where I want to say it was Georgia too, because every year we would have this conversation of never has so little been done with so much, because we would just look at our draft board and it's just littered with all these players, and we'd be like, how did they not win everything with all these guys? So that's two different conversations in terms of talent and team. The second thing is, I think one of the reasons we've seen this incredible era of SEC football is that at least one, if not more than one, of those elite teams who've always had elite talent finally had quarterbacks. LSU had quarterbacks. Alabama has went on a run of having quarterbacks. So it let all that talent play and show. And now it's almost like some of that talent is being hidden behind the fact that these elite teams, Georgia doesn't have a great quarterback. LSU's got a solid quarterback, but that's not Joe Burrow going through there. Alabama's hit a little bit of a lull here after being on an incredible run. So I still think that they're just pure talent wise. The SEC, has that, but the quarterback stuff has not been great. And I think that now it's a level playing field, with everybody else. And Ohio State has always been on par with the SEC. Like you could say they're the extra SEC team, with Penn State and Michigan, on a yearly basis, kind of being in that mix. So I still think it's kind of that same core group of teams. It's mostly SEC plus 2 or 3 more. But I think the big story with the SEC is like they're on a little bit of a dry run with quarterbacks right now.
Yeah, because you'll add up this bowl season. We'll see where it goes. You could really dig into it and be like, well, wait a minute, the Big Ten's whipping it out, and they're 8-5 in the bowl season, and the SEC 7-5.
But can we use the bowl? I don't, and I'm agreeing with your premise, but I just.
But the bowl,
bowl
look,
seasons,
the SEC,
these are spring games now.
Yeah, but look, the SEC doesn't not use it to their side of the argument. I'm kind of in like a weird spot here because again, it gets so political where it's like, well, no one's actually changing their mind.
Yeah,
like. With the SEC's record in bowl games and going through it, of course, you would use that as evidence. So you can't skip it, even if there are times. Now I'm kind of doing the open that I was going to do later on, but whatever, just using it. I call it like Danny Cannell Day. There was a bowl season like 10 years ago where the SEC just lost a bunch of these games, a bunch of close games, just some weird stuff happened. Mm-hmm. And then he came in like he just won an election the next day at work. And all it really was like a dead cat bounce. It was a bowl season that was bad on paper for them, and then they just kept rolling. But if Ohio State gets another title, you go back to back. That was always kind of the other thing is if you look at the SEC and you've got 5 teams here in recent history that have won a national championship, and those teams, most of them winning multiple national championships. Like, could you get 5 deep with the Big Ten before you'd start laughing at the idea of it? Well, at least in this case, if Ohio State pulls it out here, still, again, a lot of work to do. I think at least the conversation is moving in a direction where you can have a conversation about something that I would never indulged in.
Do you realize how close we are to having, this conversation? It's going to be revisionist because if I have this right, if Notre Dame wins, right, if Notre Dame beats Georgia, we have in the Final Four,
which is totally possible.
Totally possible, right?
Right.
So we have coming off on the heels of having a 14 playoff, all the top 4 seeds gone in this thing. So you're going to have, Danny's like the perfect one. He'll have a field day with this and be like, all these years where we scholarship the second SEC team into the 14 playoff. And no, here we are. Now we're seeing how flawed this system has been that, when we rank the top 4, none of them could even make it into the semis in the first year of the 12-team playoff. It's just, I don't know. People are going to have a field day with the seeding on this thing.
And I would say I'd need more than 1 year of results to feel like we can come to some kind of conclusion. And look, go back through all the 4-team years. I really don't think they got it wrong.
Yeah, like I'd have to go through. I'd have to go through and look at that. I don't. There's nothing off the top of my head that says, "Oh, I can't believe this team got in over that team that was so egregious that impacted."
There's an Alabama Ohio State argument one year. Look, I was happy with TCU getting in. I didn't love Cincinnati that year, but I was. When you looked at the field, you're like, okay, let's see how it looks. Like, let's go. Usually, that all just became kind of backed up by everything else. All right. I want to ask you about the NFL stuff as we finish up the season and look ahead to the playoffs. How do you see the personalities of the top AFC teams in comparison with what we have in the NFC right now?
I think it's interesting, man. I think we're just looking at the quarterback stuff specifically. I did this the other day, just kind of run through those 7 teams, and there's so many in the AFC. I think Russell Wilson's the only one that's not a homegrown first-round pick. Like they're all homegrown ones. With superior talent that have hit, and there's some more defensive coaches on the AFC side, which I found was kind of fascinating in terms of how marriage between the head coach and the quarterback. And then you go to the NFC, and it's like these incredible stories of Sam, and Baker right at the top of the list of kind of of guys who've found their right spot and their right fit. Stafford isn't, obviously has a Super Bowl with the Rams, but still, really hitting big in the right fit on his, on his second team. So it's fascinating to kind of watch these different, how you build a team, the different ways you kind of build a roster, with the centerpiece of that being the quarterback. The difference between the AFC and the NFC. Goff, obviously, on the other end of that trade, him or Darnold, one of them is going to have the number one overall seed. So I think going into this, I'm kind of marrying the playoffs into what's going into the spring, Ryan, with the draft. And it's like, I think it's a little underwhelming on the quarterback side of things. And I think that if you're a general manager, you're going to go, okay, we're not trying to find our next Jaden Daniels this year. We're trying to find our next, Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. Like, who's the reclamation project that we can get our arms around?
I've told this story before, so I apologize if I told it to you, but like becoming friendly with Liner because I live out here, and I remember having like this pretty intense conversation about like his journey, and him looking at me going like, the first year I really felt comfortable, felt like I was a good fit for the system, and kind of understood what it was. It was like my fifth year. And he's like, but at that point, like everybody's over me. Mm-hmm. It's done. Like it's over. It's impossible to be in a front office and tell your ownership, like, here's what we'd like to do.
But I need
give me five,
yeah.
maybe 6 years of runway here.
Yeah.
To hope our guy can figure it out.
Yeah.
So just stay the course with us here. So, I mean, we can see the Darnold and the Baker stuff.
Yeah.
And certainly, the Goff thing isn't as new as Darnold. And look, Baker and this offense and what they've been doing. I mean, this is a couple years now at Tampa, right? So, but it's something that I had tracked for a really long time that didn't really happen. Is the flame out first rounder is usually not a success somewhere else, and now we're having it happen multiple times, all at the same time. I mean, was there ever a guy? I guess I should pivot this into a question. Was there ever a guy that you had when you were working in the front offices where you're like, I know I'm right about him, I just wish he had more time?
Oh gosh. I mean, well, Sam, I mean, just from that's after my, being in the NFL,
right, you weren't
scouting
role.
Then.
Right.
Yeah. But in terms of when I was actually in the league scouting, I'm trying to go back through and think of like some really good grades that I gave.
I know it's not Kyle Bowler. So
no, I came in right after that, and I've told you the Bowler story. Yeah. So no, that was right after that. Oh gosh. I mean, you know what? I had a huge, well, it ended up working out, but I had a huge grade on Alex Smith, and then he was just kind of flamed out, kind of ho-hum, and then Harbaugh kind of turned him, late. And then obviously he got with Andy and had some real success there with the Chiefs. But that was one early on, was like, this is not looking good with the grade that I gave him. And, having him and Aaron Rodgers right next to it, I think I had him over Aaron Rodgers. And so there's that, after Aaron sits that early start, and you're like, holy crap, like obviously he's Hall of Fame and, going to go down as one of the all-time greats. But like, that's when we're like, how could I be that bad? How could I be that off that this guy can't play for this team? And this other guy is going to go down as one of the 5 best quarterbacks, maybe of all time. That's a bad mess. And then finally he kind of kick saved it a little bit when he got an opportunity there with Andy. So that's one that comes off the top of my head.
When I got the chance to interview Alex this year, I mean, I know everybody loves the guy. I did not fully understand how he was putting himself through the ringer mentally. And there's just no accounting for that. Like, how do you predict, hey, we love all of his talent. He's won everywhere, super productive, great in the interviews. But I can see him being a mental mess for the first 5 or 6 years of his career. And it sounds like, at least the way he explained it to me, is he kind of made himself crazy, and it was limiting his ability because all he was doing was thinking about living up to all of the expectations instead of just playing football, which is a really hard thing to do.
He had played at such a high level. He was so young. He'd had so much team success, and then the expectations on top of that, I could see that kind of drowning you, to some degree. And he was so freaking smart. Like, I just remember we obviously weren't in a position to be able to pick him, but going through all the process and then being at the pro day and visiting with him, and then talking with teams that would be talking with him, and it was just like, God, guy's so freaking smart, man. Like, he's, we like the tools, and I don't think it's not an elite arm, elite athlete, but everything he does is above the line. And like, he's such a great dude, and he's so freaking smart. Like, I thought this was an easy bet, on that grade.
Where would you rank Drake Maye as far as this year's quarterback class?
I said this about Drake. I would, if I was going to rank him, just off purely how they played, I would put him second for me, and that's above Nix, and that's behind Jaden. But if you rephrase the question, say what's been the most impressive of the quarterbacks, like what's impressed me the most, what Drake has done with what he has been the most impressive to me. I mean, they are bad. I mean, when you look at that team, and I just saw them live last week, and I go, okay, what are the pieces? Like, I always like to say, when this team's good, maybe that's a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, how many members of this offense are going to be on that good team? Ramondre Stevenson. They got a couple decent interior offensive linemen, but like nothing that gets me super excited. I don't think there's a receiver on that team that's going to be, when they're good, that's going to be playing. The tackles are definitely not on that team. I like Hunter. Hunter Henry's a solid vet, but I mean, he's not going to be, by the time they're good, he's not going to be in that window. So this is a one-man band, and he's made them watchable and competitive. So I think he's been the most impressive that way.
All right, you did a better job of answering a question I didn't ask, because I was talking about like the 25 class. But let's stay on this though for a second.
Yeah.
Let's stay on this though for a second. So,
yeah,
are you talking about ranking all 6 guys? You would have Drake number 2 behind Jaden?
I personally would, because I think what he's done. I think if you were to him and Bo were to switch, and they switch places, I think he would be doing even more, which is impressive to say because of Nix's numbers and how that looks. But I think they have done such a good job of building that thing around Bo, and Sean's done such a good job of calling plays. And I mean, even like, this is one thing that's always bugged me about coaches that have rookie quarterbacks that don't take advantage of this. Go look at the like inside the 5 touchdown passes that Sean will give him. Go look at the like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 short yardage where he'll get him some home run, like layups, like nakeds and boots, where he can get some layup free shots. Like, it would drive me nuts when I would watch Zach Wilson with the Jets. And I'm like, they would be 1st and goal at the 1. And I'm like, dude, do you know what this means in this market with this, someone who needs some confidence? You have a 3 touchdown game that's just given to you on a platter. Just first down, or just let him play action, get the tight end. It's a gimme touchdown. It sounds stupid that in this era, with all the numbers we have, the touchdown interception ratio should be so important. But how many times do you hear it referenced in the dialogue and, what's written about and what's talked about on the radio and on television? Oh, he had a good year. He had 25 touchdowns and 6 picks. Like, why would you not take the opportunity to give him some of those freebies? And I think Sean does those little things like that, of understanding the importance of building him up, not only, individually, but also the whole support system, going like, oh, he's having a heck of a year.
Yeah, it sounds like we've not talked about Bo Nix, you or I, all season long, because it's been a really good season for a rookie quarterback. And yet I can't help but think like, yeah, all right, like maybe he'll be okay. Where the Drake Maye thing, where you were like, if you put Bo Nix where Drake Maye is, it sounds like you wouldn't like it as much as you like Drake Maye right now.
No. And that's the challenge of it. And I don't do that to disparage or take anything away from Bo. I think Bo got hit the ground running, and I thought he would. I thought he would be, closer to what he's going to be faster than any of these other guys. He's played 62 games in college. Like, he was going to arrive kind of, clear packaging, no assembly required, put him out there and you're going to get the best of Bo Nix. And I think you've gotten that. He's played really well.
I noticed Caleb wasn't mentioned yet.
He's tough, man. I still maintain my confidence that this is going to get figured out. It's Ryan, it's all in there. Everybody can see it. The flashes, it's all in there. He's just got to speed up. He's just got to adjust. He's got to speed up, and he's trying so hard not to make a mistake. And that's got to come with a new coach, new quarterback coach, new offensive coordinator. Has got to liberate him and free him and say, I do not care if you throw 20 interceptions. This is not who you are. Just sitting in there stuck holding the ball. It's not who you are.
I think that interception streak was a terrible development this year. It sounds really good, but that tells me he is scared to death. And
1,000%.
I like what I saw from him in games the beginning of the year where the stats were worse more than what I'm seeing now. And you could say the Detroit game, like he got him back into it, but I still look. We just saw college games with it. Nobody plays 11 intensity for 60 minutes, especially when you think the other team stinks. And so there's usually some yards in there late, some touchdown or two, and the final box score looks like it's okay. Once that interception streak kept going and going and going, it was like, hey, I'm like, I don't think this is actually a good thing.
He referenced it the other day, which told me exactly what we're talking about, that was in his head. He was talking about, it was a nice thing. He was trying to relay the message that the offensive line, that it's not their fault, with all these sacks, like some of those are on me. And then he made this comment, which something along the lines of, like receivers drop passes, you're going to miss a block. I've thrown 6 interceptions. Like he mentioned like the number of interceptions, and I'm sitting here going like, that was so in his head of like, that's a good game. You didn't turn the ball over. That's a good game. It's like, no, I didn't draft you to be that guy.
No, not at all. Like, you're going to have to take some chances there. But I think dude,
it's all in there though. Don't you think? I mean, I'm
not sitting here being there. Like it's bad. I don't really understand the Bears. I think it's more like, and Bears fans are going, oh, no kidding. I was a Bears fan this season for like 6 or 7 games. Then after the Hail Mary against Washington, I just couldn't do it anymore emotionally. But I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because you just hired a coach. I mean, the same thing may happen with Mayo, and I would have a hard time like firing any of these coaches after just one season. I think it's like, so what are we doing? But Caleb was going to be stuck in like a weird transitional decision thing where what you should have done is just cleaned house and made sure everything was structured around him to benefit him. And this should have been the lump year. And the problem is, like, next year could be lump year 2 because it's going to be another new system and all this different stuff. But yeah, I didn't get done with the year going, oh my God, what a huge mistake, or I'm wrong about him. That's going to take a little longer. If anybody's ever listened to me before, I think they understand.
It's weird to say this, is that this kind of juxtaposition of I'm confident it's all in there, and I'm confident he's going to get there, but I'm also going to, on paper, his numbers this year look better than where he actually played.
That's a good way of putting it. So you went on a redraft, you would have Drake ahead of Caleb?
I hate redrafts. It's the worst.
Okay, you don't even have to.
But I'm just saying, because it's just all out there. It's still all out there. I just say above. I had Drake as my second quarterback in the draft, so I love Drake coming into the process. So I had Jaden as my third, and through 1 year, Jaden clearly looks like the best quarterback in the bunch. So saying that, I love the way Drake competes. I love the way he plays. I just think everything he does is what this league is looking for. And I think it's now the onus on Caleb, with the Bears, there's a lot of onus on Caleb. They need to get a better offensive line, especially, the tackle situation has not been good. But I feel like for them to move forward, like the onus is way more on Caleb to raise his level, whereas I feel in New England the onus is way more on what's around. Like, they've got to give him something, if he does what he's doing now, plays kind of like he's playing now, but with better personnel, they're gonna turn it around pretty quick.
So it sounds, then, I already can predict your answer. If Drake were being drafted this year, he would be the number 1 pick.
Far and away.
How would you have it if it were Drake Maye in the 25 class? Give me like Drake and then the next 4 guys.
I mean, it's Drake. Cam Ward for me I like him as the best quarterback in this draft. So the ones I've done that, like, on the homework the most, I've done him and Shedeur. So I've got to do a lot more on all the other guys in this group. Now, I'm not even. There's so much talk about, is Drew Aller going to eventually enter into this mix? Is Ewers going to go in the portal? I know Jackson Dart is in this draft, who intrigues me a little bit, but it feels to me like it is. If you're going to tier it, I would say Drake. I think there's a significant drop off from Drake. I would put Ward. I think there's a little drop off from Ward down to Shedeur, and then I haven't done enough on the others to give you the order I would have them. But from what I've seen off the others, there's no middle class in quarterbacks in the draft anymore. There just isn't. Like everybody's, just pay attention in the draft season when you hear people say, you know what, that's a day 2 quarterback, and be like, well, that's an endangered species because the day 2 quarterbacks get pushed into day 1, and there really isn't such a thing as that day 2 quarterback.
If you want more from Daniel Jeremiah, you can check him out on NFL Network. And again, Move the Sticks, the podcast with Bucky Brooks and Brett Lewis, man. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of what's still sort of a down week for everybody. This Wednesday holiday thing just
that's weird, huh?
A wrench into all of it. But thanks for doing this, man. Enjoy the games tonight.
Thanks, buddy. See you, man.
You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Life advice. Happy New Year, everybody. The email address for all you need fixing, lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. Kyle has a look on his face. He's like, is Ryan in a good mood or something? What's going on?
I just thought of the Kenny Powers Fixins when you were saying for all who need fixins. Anyway.
Yeah. Kenny Powers is a good show.
Great.
He's bound down, technically, but whatever. All right. Let's just get to it. Does anybody have anything? Anybody need to do anything?
Yeah, real quick, couple follow-ups. People think I don't bathe my child or care about my child. Like, can we just relax? Can we relax?
Every other day.
Or like, Ceruti doesn't give a shit about his child, doesn't want to brush her teeth. It was a joke. It's a joke. It's just a joke.
Did people have a problem with your every other day bathing? I don't know. Do you even start stinking really until
Yeah, I had a couple people hit me up and be like, people I don't know, obviously, and they're just like, dude, you don't give your kid a bath every day. First off, it's the middle of winter here. Like the kid's
dry her out.
The kid's skin is dry. Yeah, we lotion, lather. Like we're doing all right over here. Just relax. Everybody settle down.
All right, glad we cleared that up.
Don't need DCF called on me because I made a joke on a podcast.
You're gonna get swatted.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
That's it.
I didn't know about any of that. All right. Here's the first life advice. Hello, Life Advice Coalition. 5'11 3/4. I developed the habit of stating my height so precisely during my nearly 15-year stretch of being single. I realized when guys claim to be 6 feet tall, girls often assume they're actually around 5'10. However, if you're exact about it, they're more likely to believe you. Plus, it's a fun conversation starter. I think this guy's nailing it off the jump. That's a good opener. Hi, I'm 5'11 3/4. It'll be easier for me to look you in the eyes or something like that. Like, hi, I'm Dave, 5'11 3/4, and I'm about honesty. Can I get you a drink?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you're also desperate for that last quarter inch. It's almost like, when somebody's like, I'm 9 3/4. You're like, dude, I know you want to be 10, but just be 9 for a little bit.
I don't think this guy sounds desperate at all. I think he knows who he is and what he wants out of life.
Yeah, I also think that, if you're talking to a girl and that's a deal breaker, like you're not 6 feet, then you want to deal with that anyway. So you're fine.
Yeah.
Tell the truth, brother. I like it.
Tell the truth. All right. As for comps, I used to be able to dunk and once made 8 3-pointers in a high school game. Could tell this guy had game. But now I can barely touch the net. Oh, and we'll probably go 1 for 8. Can't touch the net? Come on, dude. You can definitely touch the net. 5'11 3/4, man. You can do anything.
That's like a 6-inch vert, I feel like. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not great.
I mean, net touching for like those of us that weren't pogo sticks, that's like 7th, 8th grade stuff, right?
Pretty attainable, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Kyle, see if you can touch the net this week.
I can touch the net. I can tell you right now.
Net. Yeah, I don't need to see
Ceruti,
it at
you
all.
can definitely touch the net.
There's no doubt about it, yeah. I don't even think that's not even
I get 3/4 of the net. I'll tell you right now.
It's not even flex. Yeah, I could rip it a little and fuck it up.
I would be embarrassed to say I could touch net. That's not even cool. Like,
could touch the top of my doorway too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do it for fun sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an awesome, like, hey, this is our buddy Dave. He can't touch net. I don't know who can't, a grown man that can't touch a net. don't even send us an email. We can't help you. All right. Let's see here.
Yeah, what's this guy's other problem?
Yeah. I recently discovered that one of my good friends, say Brad and his girlfriend, were hosting a party that my girlfriend and I were invited to. For context, I've known Brad for over 5 years. We've been it's just grumbling from Ceruti. It's just so good today. We've been friends for over 5 years. We've even been on a few trips together. Since he moved in with his girlfriend in a different part of town, we haven't interacted as much, but we still see each other in group settings a few times a year, text about various things every few months. Went on a boys' trip a year ago, and I invited him to go fishing recently. It felt odd not to be invited, but I'm not the type to read too much into these situations. They had only met my new girlfriend a couple times, and we had recently moved to a slightly further part of town. So I figure they just forgot. I found out about the party when my close friend Trevor asked if we were going. I simply replied that we were not invited, but didn't make a big deal about it. Out of the blue, on the day of the party, Brad, again the host, texted me about something unrelated. We exchanged a few messages, but he didn't mention the party.
Dude.
I decided it was silly to assume he didn't want me there and asked him what he was doing that night. He responded that they were planning a chill night with one other couple. After I assumed my friend Trevor had been mistaken about it being a party and moved on. The situation took a turn the next day when my girlfriend heard from Trevor's girlfriend that it had definitely been a party with all of our closest friends. Not only that, but Brad told my friends that he had invited me when he definitely had not.
Oh, man.
Whoa.
Okay,
What
so
the
he's
hell, man?
I think I know what's
The
going
day
on.
of text is sinister, too.
Whoa.
Hey, man, what are you doing today? You find out about my secret party? Oh, we're in the clear.
Yeah, just checking in.
Wow.
Okay, so he has a theory. The story develops with a picture. This was obviously strange, and I racked my brain for anything I could have done to deserve this snub, but came up empty-handed. My initial thought was that maybe Brad's girlfriend felt threatened by my girlfriend. My girlfriend is attractive and younger than most of my friends' girlfriends, but she's so sweet that it's never been an issue, so I initially dismissed this theory. However, while discussing it with my girlfriend, I remembered that Brad had followed her on Instagram and liked a post of her in a swimsuit soon after meeting her the first time. His girlfriend wasn't there for the initial meeting, but shortly after, Brad's girlfriend met my girlfriend and followed my girlfriend on Instagram, which made me realize she must have looked at her profile, which is normal after following someone, and seen her boyfriend that he has a like on my girlfriend's photo.
Tough scene. Yeah.
The photo wasn't provocative, but it's still a swimsuit. See attached. She is very attractive.
Congrats,
and
man.
it's a great photo. I don't know if you guys are in the EDM scene or what's going on with the hairstyle.
It's a good bathing suit.
It all works. Congrats to you, dude.
Who's the real winner here?
Yeah, right. Do we need to read the rest of the email? Like, who gives a shit? Anyway, so we also realized that he had now unliked the photo.
Yeah.
We're now confident that his girlfriend saw he liked the photo. They argued about it, and that's why we weren't invited. And now it makes more sense why he even went so far as to randomly text me on the day of the party so he could claim he texted me to my other friends. Obviously, Brad couldn't admit to my friends that he couldn't invite me because he got in trouble for liking my girlfriend's photo. My girlfriend and I have been laughing about the whole situation, but it's also kind of sad. I've always valued Brad as one of my more level-headed friends with similar interests and ambitions. It really sucks to think we missed out on a fun event with all of our friends over something so silly. To be clear, I'm not mad, but would like things to return to normal. I could call him out for lying, but it doesn't seem likely he would admit it was over an Instagram post. I don't think no guy could be like, yep, that's what it was.
Yeah.
He would lie about that.
Thanks,
I mean, he just
brother.
lied about
that photo of your
just,
girlfriend, man. Sorry.
It would be hilarious if you're like, hey, is this what happened? And he goes, that's exactly what happened.
Glad you
I
understand.
actually think there's a reasonable, I don't know. I think I have buddies that would cop to that if you really call them out directly on it. Like, hey man, right. I'm not mad. Like, I'm not mad about the party. I found out about it. I think this is why. Again, not mad. Like, we both laughed about it, but like, I still want to be your friend, man. And like, if we could put this behind us, like, this isn't going to be a huge deal going forward. But I just admit that this is what it was. I think I have buddies that would admit to that.
Strong group of buddies. Before we get to more of this, let me just finish everything because it's It's a great email. It's got a good picture. It really sucks. We missed out on a fun event. Not mad. I honestly have no guess what he would say because this is so out of character for him. I could let it go and see if it resolves itself. But the was already over 6 months ago. We told Trevor's girlfriend about the situation and she agreed that was probably the reason and offered to do some digging. Oh, what?
Some recon.
But even if we find out that is the reason, then what? I'm mostly frustrated this is affecting a solid relationship. We don't hang out a ton, but I work a lot. So I value the few friendships I do have. Hey, man, I know what you're talking about there. So look, wait, that was that last piece, though.
So Trevor's
we told Trevor's girlfriend about the situation and she agreed that was probably the reason and offered. So wait, the girlfriend's actually on your side and is aware. So he's going to find out about it.
No, Trevor is his mutual friend. So not the guy whose party he got stiff from. That's the guy who did the classic mistake.
Yeah, right.
Where you're like, are you going to the party that you were
Trevor.
Invited to?
Yeah.
I was mixing up my Trevor and Brad's again.
Yeah.
My bad.
Happens, man.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, I think the thing that would bother me the most is not the invite, but don't go telling my fucking friends, our friends, that you invited me and I just didn't show up. Because then, like, I'm going to find out about that. So even if it has nothing to do with the girlfriend and the picture thing and how stupid it is, and that's probably exactly what it is, especially if all the other girlfriends are older and don't look like your girlfriend, which I'm imagining they don't. So you could just go simple win. It seems like you also have this great power that I've been thinking about more and more as you get older, developing the superpower of it's not the subtle art of not giving a fuck thing. It's just not being bothered by, and I never read the book. It's just, maybe it worked for other people, but there's something that happens you as older as you're more like content with who you are, where it's an unbelievable power to just go, I don't care about this. I don't care. You lied about the party. You didn't invite me. It is a bummer. I'd prefer to have gone to a party and had something to do with all my friends, but I'm not going to let your bullshit bum me out for a couple days because you're the messed up one here. So I actually don't I'm going to talk to you about it. I write a show, email about it, but I don't get the sense that this guy's actually messed up by any of this at all. I think this guy's, it's 5'11" and 3/4. This guy's killing it. And maybe it's because I have the picture and you guys don't. But the point is I would hammer him on that one a little bit more, right? So it's not the investigative, like, how did we get here? But I think you want to talk to him about it. I would want to. You want him to still be your friend. It sounds like this can all these things can still happen. But I would in a very stern tone be like, if you're going to do something like that, don't lie about inviting me. So then my friends, because it all came back to me anyway, and you seem to be okay with all of these moving parts, knowing that I was likely going to find out about all of this. And if that's who you're going to be, then just let me know because I'm out.
Yeah, that part feels like the only betrayal. I think advanced analytics would suggest don't bring up your theory on the Instagram photo. It is like I think you have a worse chance of getting the outcome you want by going that route. But to say that, like, listen, I know that you said that you texted me and I know you didn't. Our friends just talk. Sorry. Like I wasn't doing an investigation. It fell in my lap and I know that part. So I just want to know what's up with that. Maybe that's a one-on-one situation where you because it sounds like maybe it might just be hard. Like, the way that you could figure out if this is true or not is like try to do a couples thing. And if that doesn't work out, like it, not just a party, but like asking, is it Brad or asking Brad if he wants to go out with his girlfriend or something. That's the way you'll know. If there's a reason that can't happen, then you'll know that's what it is. But I wouldn't like come up to him with your theory. I think the thing for sure is that he lied about inviting you to this thing. And that's something that you could totally, one-on-one massage that. But I definitely wouldn't do this whole theory about like, dude, is your girlfriend really jealous of mine? Like, that's just not going to work. No one's going to be truthful in that situation.
I don't know. I guess I just feel like it's more cut and dry than you guys do. That has to be it. Like the other girlfriend kind of confirmed it. And it is such a dude move to just like have this half-ass plan where you're going to not tell, where you're going to text your buddy, but not invite him to the party so that you think you've covered all your bases, but it's actually a terrible idea. I think you just have to confront him and say, hey man, this is actually kind of funny. I'm not mad about this, but like, if this is the reason, Like, you're not ruining my friends' social circles because you're horny or because of your fuck up. Like these are my friends too. We can get over this, but come on, dude. I think you just have to make it lighthearted and joke it with him, and then I think he'll be honest with you about it. And
I don't think he will be. I mean, he was already pretty deceitful. He texted him a day.
He got backed into a corner though, but he got back. I feel like maybe she was like she can't invite him. Like, don't invite that couple. Like, I don't know. Maybe he needs to have a little bit more of a backbone. I just maybe he got backed into a corner and made this thing last second. It was like, all right, here's the perfect plan of how I can just like get around this for one holiday. But he's going to have to address this at another. As Kyle said, invite him out somewhere. He's going to have to address this at some other point in the future. So it's going to come out.
My point was address the thing where you caught him red-handed. I know for a fact that you lied about inviting me. Like, well, that's weird. In our, I would think you would know our group's a little tighter than this. That like shit gets back. Not the theory of like, dude, you're so horny that you had to like my, whatever. Like I just
maybe it was an accident. It was an accident.
That's when maybe the claws come out, and it's like you're not going to get to the bottom of this, and this whole thing was a wash. That's why I think if you just went to the part that's like actually, I think a dude would admit, yeah, that was shitty. I'm sorry. Instead of I think I know what's really going on here. Like I think that might just put the kibosh on the whole thing.
Maybe Trevor. I mean, would Trevor get involved and be like, This is the running theory, man. This is what they think. So that way you're not directly.
I don't know.
Trevor is.
We all think.
I don't like the Trevor part of it. I don't like the Trevor girlfriend part of it. I think it's harder for you to control the message here now. Trevor's girlfriend's going to get involved in all sorts of theories. I know.
Yeah, can you trust Trevor's girlfriend to keep her mouth shut? Not sure.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Good. This is Russillo PR at its finest, right here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you focus on here the most because. I understand what you're saying, Ceruti, and how funny it would be if you went to your boy, who's like one of your guys. You'd be like, is this what happened? And he goes, yep, that's 100%. Like, that's hilarious.
High five, move on.
But Brad isn't going to be that way. He's a deceitful person. He texted you day of to, one, cover his bases, to say that he texted you, but then to also feel you out to see if you knew about the party and if you were going to ask him directly. So therefore he felt better about having the party because he thought your dumbass was sitting at home with your super hot younger girlfriend, just going like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And the fact that he has that in him to do to you, it doesn't really have anything to do. Or you know what? Fire off 70 likes in a row on his girlfriend's page. That's always a good move. Just blitzkrieg it.
Yeah, we're going back to 2015, right?
Okay. All right. Let's do a simpler one here. Golf simulator drama. Hey guys, big fan of the show. So my buddy, let's call him AK. Andre Kirilenko. You're friends with him? That's awesome. Took out a home equity loan to build a sick backyard garage with a golf simulator.
Yes.
We're going to have to.
Yes. Wish I had one friend that would do shit like that. That'd be awesome.
I thought about this. Because they sell one at Costco, and I was talking to my buddies about this. I'm like, we split this like 5 ways, put it at my house. Like, you guys can come over whenever you want.
Dude, I saw like an old man like get this for Christmas from his wife, and it was like the nicest video ever. I watched all 2 minutes of it. It was so great.
You know, it'd be nice. It's like nicer than getting it as an old man, getting it as a young man.
I know. I'm aware.
In your backyard.
I'm going to have Josh Brown on. Be like, okay, we got a guy here who says he wants to take out a $20,000 home equity loan.
He's calling it an investment in his future.
Right.
And it's an investment in his future, but also his friends. Also investment in friendship. Yeah.
Ceruti, for me to do that, if I were one of your friends, you'd be like, you're putting it at my house. I'd be like, okay, but when you list this house on Zillow in 5 years, you can't say that it includes a golf simulator.
Yeah.
Dude, think about what it's going to do to your taxes. Come on.
I would agree.
What's the value now?
I think it was like 15 grand. How much was it? 10 grand, maybe. 10
Really
grand.
awesome.
Anyway, email. 65315 player comp 2007 Chris Kamen. Big dude.
That guy's not dealing in quarter inches at all.
No, and that's why he's friends with Kirilenko. It actually makes sense now. Yep. They both bigger dudes. Every Friday night, our group goes over to play, drink beers, watch hoops, hang out. It's great. Wow. Over holiday break, my buddy Parker and I texted AK to see if we could swing by one morning to hit some balls. He said, quote, sure, but Venmo me $20 each for heat, electricity, and wear and tear. Now, I get it. It's his house, his rules, but come on. We already paid $50 each for the Friday night league. I'm pretty sure AK clears at least 300 every winter in those dues. I thought asking for more cash on top of that was kind of a dick move. So I texted back saying it was crazy. That kicked off a back and forth. AK dropped the price to $10, like he was cutting us a deal. Then I implied I couldn't afford,
Oh, dude.
italics, $20, and completely missing the point. His argument, it's still cheaper than going into the city and using a professional simulator, which, yeah, technically true, but also not the point. So what's the play here? Am I the asshole for thinking this is over the line? Do we just cough up the $20 or the discounted $10 and move on? Or is this one of those hill to die on moments?
I think maybe he's like, you're just maybe a little bit more respectful. Like you're still going into this guy's house. Maybe you just think a little bit more carefully about it. And he's just like, all right, there's a transaction here. It's not just like, I got the hookup. We'll go to my buddy's place of, his domicile where he lives, just like while he's gone. Like, I don't know. I think maybe it just makes you think about it a little more respectfully. I don't know. It sounds like he's going the other way and thinking like, how could he do this to me? But, just like people get a little comfortable. Maybe this is the way of making sure people don't get too comfortable just going to his house because he did this thing that he paid for, right? Took out a loan and paying interest on all it. Maybe he just wants people to feel a little bit less comfortable than, when he's away. I don't know.
Maybe he's the one that's uncomfortable with the finances, and that's why he's like, man, did I get a little ahead of my skis on this thing, and I need to recoup some of the cash fast. I think what you do is if your other buddies are kind of in on this, I think you just kind of make fun of it, but still pay. And that way, like the message gets across, but it doesn't feel like you're being cheap. You're just kind of giving him a hard time for it. And that way, like, I don't know, maybe he kind of gets the message of like, am I being a little bit too much of an asshole by asking my friends for an additional $20 every time they come over to use this thing?
20 seems a lot better than 20 to me, but still.
Heating and electric, like, that seems a little nuts.
Yeah. I don't know whose side to take. Yeah, you're right. Because I think Kyle nails in the beginning with there needs to be some sort of boundary that prevents, because there's likely one guy in the group will just be like, oh, I'll just go over to AK's again and hit balls. And it's like,
right.
That's not really, this isn't a business,
kid's first birthday party. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Right. Romantic dinner, some Chilean sea bass. Speaking of Chile, nice sauve.
Nice.
You get Doug out there just
lands off.
Doug's just going like, God damn it, in the background.
Trying to fix the hook. Yep.
Yeah. So I think what Kyle is saying is there needs to be something that exists. It's not even a mental barrier, but there has to be some transactional point where this is not just a free-for-all for all you guys come up. But then to Ceruti's point, I'm totally with you too. I don't like the verbiage. Wear and tear. What is this, a fucking rental car? Like, it's cheaper than going into the city. So what are you telling me, that your rates are just better? Like, this is, I'm swearing a lot today. I don't know why. Anyway, I would just pay the $10 because it is still a decent deal, while you understand that he just clearly is not comfortable with everybody just coming over hitting balls for free all the time, because it may not be you, the emailer, but it could be somebody from the friend group that, that kind of like, hey, hit me up if you need anything, that nobody ever expects to take you up on. And then the person that takes you up on it. And then you're just like, okay, this is brutal.
It's kind of like pools, right? In the summer. Like, I think I've done this before, but both my parents have pools, and it's just, people will start coming out of the woodwork, and you don't charge people money for pools. I think maybe that's a bridge too far, but you can just see when people get too comfortable and like, oh, can my cousin? It's like, who the fuck's your cousin? And then your cousin's girlfriend, and it's like, oh yeah, and her kid. And it's just, before you know it, there's people there. Nobody brought anything. Half of them don't have towels. It can get out of control. And, most people respect the pool boundaries, but some people are like, how many people can I bring here before you tell me something? So I just think it's the same sentiment. It's definitely not the same, process here, but I think it's the same sentiment where people can just get a little too comfortable. You have this cool thing, and if they could just work their way into it, they feel like they got to win. So I don't know.
Because I have to say, I'm pretty jealous. Like being able to go to a buddy's house and hang out with your guys every Friday, hitting
so
like
great.
That's like living the dream, man. But I don't know. It feels like he's a little too power hungry. I think it's one of two things. He's a little too power hungry, or maybe the money is a little tight and he's just kind of like a little nervous about the investment. I don't know.
Yeah, pay it with a couple of well-placed jokes. I think we blended that perfectly here.
Okay,
maybe a good
that'll
nickname
do it for us. What's that?
Maybe a good nickname. I don't know. The landlord. I don't know. Call something funny.
start joking that you're going to call the Better Business Bureau on them.
There you go. Yeah, these are good. They're not deep cuts, but that's good. Sorry. You can end the show now.
Thanks to Wargon. Thanks to Kyle and Ceruti. Check out our YouTube page. We'll have Friday feedback up, a fresh one for you, freshly delivered today. And as always, subscribe to the podcast. Ryen Russillo, Ringer, Spotify.